么近日呢，就有相关的这个报道指出啊，印度企业伪造了30份政府承诺书，将中国稀土呢伪装成了民用物资，走私到了美国的军工巨头，涉案金额高达数亿美元。目前呢，已经是被中方抓获了。
是的，4月份的时候，中国的商务部门就发布了相关的这样的一个指示公告嘛，对7种中重的稀土要实施出口管制措施，明确表明了一点呢，就是这些东西呢是不能用于军事的，也不能转给第三国的。然后有了相关之后呢，就给一些国家开始发许可证，这些国家就申请，企业申请说需要用到这个中国的稀土，我是做什么用的？一般都是说一些民用的物资啊。那么其中呢也有印度表态之后呢，中国也做了相关的审批，给他们进行了这个发放。但是之后就发现了一点啊，印度搞的这个事情是什么呢？他们其实是有点阳奉阴违的这样的一个情况。因为第一，他们在转卖给美国；第二，他们其实给美国的销售当中，美国也是在做军用方面的使用。
对，是的。那么其实呢，对于这个印度这个做法呢，应该说是显然碰触到了中国的底线的。但是中国方面呢，其实早都有准备了，毕竟印度的这个骑墙大师嘛。然后呢，印方呢有可能会面临终身禁购中国稀土的一个重罚了。那么稀土呢，目前我们也都知道它的这个重要性，不管在电子啊，还有在这个新能源、军工方面的这些关键领域的一个重要的作用。所以呢，也成为了这种大国博弈啊，还有这种国家提升硬实力可以说是不可或缺的一个资源啊。
你看他们是怎么用的？他们就是印度在给中国做申报的时候说，这个稀土呢是我们民用电动车领域要使用到的东西，然后中国就给他批了之后呢，他们又打算和美国再偷偷的交易，所以他们说啊，向中国申请之后呢，这个稀土运出之后，在马来西亚和越南首先是洗白，然后洗白之后呢，伪装成军用电机，再转销到美国，单笔交易溢价60%。一方面你看看印度多会做事儿，跟美国的这个盟友的关系，我帮助了你。第二呢，我还要把你的钱挣了，溢价了60%。所以这是被中国发现之后，也如果未来要严格的话，中国已经有准备了，就是可能会完全的终身断绝和那个印度的稀土之间。
For us, it's a national security challenge because rare earths go into almost every form of defense technology, from fighter jets and warships to missiles and tanks.
Welcome to GBS Deep Dive. I'm Najma Minhas. When China imposed its rare earth export restrictions in April 2025, many in the West dismissed it as economic posturing by the country. But as the conflict across Gaza, southern Lebanon, and now Iran deepens, Israeli weapon systems are beginning to falter under sustained pressure of heavy usage. It's dawning on many countries, although they still do not fully comprehend, that this will be a calibrated geopolitical strike, should China wish it to be, one that doesn't require a single bullet. Welcome to the 21st century warfare, when minerals and not missiles may determine who wins and who never fires at all. More details on this in a few minutes, but you may recall that earlier this month there was an uproar in the United States as manufacturers, particularly automobile manufacturers, but also from other industries, started thinking about closing down production lines because of a scarcity in the rare earth minerals. Magnets they needed, magnets they did not have. The rare earth materials became the key point in the second round of discussions between the United States and China in the London talks. In fact, it was the Chinese dominance in those materials that actually got the United States negotiators to come back, quite literally, with their tails between their legs. Not over tariffs, not over TikTok or chips, but over magnets. Post those talks, China has allowed limited, albeit still tightly controlled, rare earth exports under strict licensing rules. According to the Wall Street Journal's analysis recently done of customs data in May 2025, China's rare earth magnet exports plunged 74% year on year, with the shipments to the United States down by 93%. And this is following the April licensing regime introduction. Now, this is the sharpest one-month collapse in rare earth magnet exports since 2012 from China. The global supply chain didn't just bend, it basically snapped. The 1.2 million kilograms of rare earth magnets that are exported in May marked their lowest level since February 2020, during the COVID pandemic at the time. We know that the majority of the US imports of these rare earth materials comes from China, in fact over 70% overall. However, in April 2025, when China updated its export control law, interestingly, in the context of today's topic, it explicitly banned rare earth minerals from being used or exported by military end use or to military end users unless granted special state-level authorization. Chinese companies like JL Mag Rare Earth and China Northern Rare Earth Group, which received export licenses recently from the country, are still effectively barred from selling to arms manufacturers or defense subcontractors unless the buyer demonstrates pure civilian use. It's not a grey zone. Beijing's licensing language is very precise. No material can be exported if its use in military applications cannot be excluded. This means defense giants like Lockheed Martin, Rafael, Northrop Grumman, among others, are out of bounds. Let's be clear, this wasn't a blanket ban. It was a precise cutting off raw rare earth exports specifically for military use. There's a critical distinction because virtually every modern weapons platform, from the chips in missile guidance systems to the magnets in fighter jet engines, all rely on these rare earth elements. And most of those are either mined, refined, or dominated in processing by China. So, for example, briefly, the United States government's own research shows how titanium, which is not a rare earth material as such, but is another very critical material that's crucial for jet turbines in military aircraft, is not mined in the United States, but most of its supply comes into the country after being refined in China. It's actually mined in Congo, which has the largest titanium mines, but it gets labeled as a conflict material due to the origin. And this is subject to strict import laws, both in the United States and EU. And it isn't only the material that is crucial for the United States. There are several rare earth materials, including neodymium, dysprosium, and samarium, which can go into engines, sensors, radars, from fighter jets, navy ships, to submarines, and so on. From smart bombs to stealth jets, every modern battlefield advantage runs through a supply chain that ends in China. This is clear US industrial fragility, as the US Government Accountability Office has reported. Domestic rare earth element refining is under 10% of all military demand. Missile production capacity is below 30% of what's needed in a sustained war. But no country is feeling the effects of this supply chain stranglehold more acutely right now than Israel. Now, coming to Israel. Israel's conflict with Iran is costing the country hundreds of millions of dollars a day, according to the early estimates out. This is a high price tag, even for the Israelis, that will constrain its ability to conduct a lengthy war. And this is despite the fact that it receives over $3.3 billion annually from the United States through its foreign military financing program, along with another $500 million each year for cooperative missile defense systems such as the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow systems. So far in the last 1.5 years, it's received over $23 billion for emergency wartime aid since October the 7th attack by Hamas. According to one estimate, a war with Iran that lasts 1 month will cost Israel around $12 billion militarily alone. And experts say that for Iran war, the biggest single cost are the interceptors that are needed to blow up incoming Iranian missiles, which alone can amount to between tens of millions of dollars a day to $200 million a day. But then there is the rare earths that each one of those systems requires. Israel relies heavily on the United States and domestic systems that require a steady supply of rare earth elements for its performance, precision, and resilience in the battle. With China restricting military rare earth exports, and Western stockpiles depleted by the Ukrainian war and for Israel in the ongoing Gaza conflict, Israel's now facing serious supply bottlenecks as it goes into this war with Iran. Israel's famous Iron Dome, which has so impressed Donald Trump that he said he now wants to build an equivalent one for the United States called the Golden Dome. The Iron Dome batteries require radar systems built around high-performance magnets. Each Tamir interceptor missile is estimated to cost between $40,000 to $100,000, and it contains rare earth-based control systems that rely on neodymium and praseodymium and samarium cobalt magnets. Please excuse me when I say these names incorrectly. The number of ems at the end are driving me crazy. Now, it's not just about the cost, it's about chemistry. Every single launch that Israel does drains Israel's own material supply of these reserves. Due to shortages, Israel has had to start rationing interceptor launches. It's prioritizing those missiles which have confirmed trajectory threats. This has increased the risk of saturation attacks getting through the Iron Dome, which is how Iran initially responded to the Israeli attacks last week. It sent over, let's say, 10 of those missiles aiming to get through the Iron Dome, and Israel had an 80% success rate of stopping them. 20% of them still got through. The David Sling and Arrow 3 are Israel's medium to long-range interceptors. The Arrow 3 shields against the long-range ballistic missiles that leave the Earth's atmosphere, and they cost around $4 million for every interception. It uses an infrared homing system that depends on yttrium, and it stabilized ceramics and a dysprosium-based magnets. Now, these components are essential for target acquisition and heat shielding. The David Sling system, which was developed jointly by Israel and the United States, can shoot down short to long-range missiles, drones, and other aircraft. It costs around $700,000 each time it's activated, and assuming it uses 2 interceptors, which is normally the minimum, launched, but you can't fire what you can't replace. The rare earths in their high temperature sensors and guidance optics. Without these key components, like for example the thermal shielding and the killing of those vehicle sensors if they degrade or they can't be replaced. Unfortunately, for Israel right now, there is said to be a production delay at the Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, which is reportedly facing procurement delays because, as we know, even the European countries are facing delays from China in receiving those rare earths. The result is that missile defense coverage gaps are growing, especially as the pace of those incoming Iranian strikes increases. Then coming to the mighty F-35 fighter jets, Israel has around 42 of them. Each one of these contains over 400 kilograms of rare earths. Neodymium and samarium for motors, cerium for displays, gadolinium for stealth coatings, yttrium in the ceramic heat shields, and so on and so forth. Without these, all the repair cycles break down, and the fighter's readiness obviously suffers. Now, all of this has been highlighted after a leaked Knesset briefing document, which estimated that Israel could run out of key interceptors within 10 to 14 days. With the United States missile replenishment also being limited, we are actually seeing a massive impact due to these raw material shortages on military equipment. Brings us to an interesting rare moment. Let's speculate for a moment. Peace by depletion. Now, if Western nations cannot manufacture those missiles or their jets, and they cannot fight, China then didn't end the war with soldiers. It did it with supply chain leverage. Share with me your thoughts on this. Have a great day.